Your kid didn't quit snowmobiling because the sleds got worse. They quit because we made it impossible for them to start. And I can prove it, because between 1971 and 2025, snowmobile registration in America dropped nearly 65%, from 2.9 million active riders to roughly a million today. That's not market evolution, guys. That's generational collapse. And the part nobody wants to admit is that we did it to ourselves. Let me show you what really happened. In 1971, the average American snowmobiler was 28 years old. Today, it's 54 years old. We aged 26 years while the calendar moved 53 years forward. The International Snowmobile Manufacturers Association released participation data in 2019, showing that only 11% of active riders were under age 35. 11%. A sport survives when young riders replace aging ones. We're watching the opposite happen in slow motion. Michigan had 387,000 registered snowmobiles in 1997. By 2025, that number hit 168,000, more than cut in half. Wisconsin went from 294,000 registrations in 2000 to 186,000 in 2025. Minnesota dropped from 265,000 to 179,000. Every major snowbelt state shows the same pattern: steady, relentless decline. And before you blame climate change or lack of snow, let me stop you right there. Canada's snowmobile sales increased 14% between 2010 and 2020. Same climate, same snow conditions, different approach to the sport. Think back to your first sled. Most of you watching this didn't start on something new. You start on something old, used, probably beat to hell. Your dad's buddy sold it to him for $200. Maybe your uncle had one rusting in the barn he gave you for free. It didn't matter that it was a 1972 Ski-Doo Olympique that smoked like a freight train and maxed out at 35 miles per hour. It ran, it moved, you learned on it. That pathway doesn't exist anymore. Used sleds from the 1990s and early 2000s are either completely worn out or selling for collector prices. Nobody's giving away a 1997 Polaris Indy 500 to a kid learning to ride. And newer used sleds, a 2015 model still costs $4,500 to $7,000. So the entry point became expensive no matter which direction you approach from. The manufacturers killed the cheap sled market by abandoning entry-level models. In 1985, you could walk into a Polaris dealer and buy an Indy 400 or a lower-spec Indy 250. Same chassis, smaller engine, fewer features, cheaper price. By 2010, that option vanished. Every sled became premium, high performance, feature-loaded. Average transaction price in 1985 was $2,800. By 2020, it hit $13,200. Adjusted for inflation, that's still a 78% real price increase. We priced out an entire generation of working-class families who built the sport in the first place. Nobody talks about this next part, but it destroyed youth participation. Between 1995 and 2005, liability insurance costs for snowmobile owners tripled. Not because accidents increased, because insurance companies reclassified snowmobiling as high-risk recreation after a wave of lawsuits in the early 90s. Suddenly, letting your kids' friends ride your sled became a legal liability nightmare. Remember when 10 kids from the neighborhood would show up at your house on a Saturday? Everybody took turns on whoever's sled was running. That stopped. Parents got scared. Lawyers got involved. Insurance companies demanded waivers. The informal community aspect that made snowmobiling accessible disappeared under threat of litigation. And then came helmet laws. I'm not arguing against helmet laws. Helmets save lives, period. But watch what happened. Michigan passed mandatory helmet laws for riders under 18 in 2006. Youth registrations dropped 34% within 3 years. Not because kids refused to wear helmets, because parents saw the helmet law as confirmation that snowmobiling was dangerous. The perception shift killed participation faster than any actual danger ever did. Minnesota required safety certification courses starting in 1999 for anyone born after 1976. Good idea, right? Teach kids proper technique and trail etiquette, except the courses cost $125, required 2 full days of attendance, and the nearest training site was often 90 minutes away. Another barrier. Another reason for parents to say, maybe next year. In 1998, there were 3,847 snowmobile dealerships in the United States. By 2023, that number dropped to 1,214, more than two-thirds gone. Small-town dealers who'd been selling sleds since the 1960s couldn't survive on margins that kept shrinking while inventory costs kept rising. Manufacturers demanded dealers stock more units, build bigger showrooms, invest in training and specialized equipment. The guy running a two-bay shop out of his garage in northern Wisconsin couldn't compete. When those dealers closed, entire towns lost access. A kid in rural Maine might now be 120 miles from the nearest dealership. No local mechanic who knows sleds, no place to test ride, no community hub where riders gathered. The sport became distant, abstract, something you saw online, not something you participated in. We turned snowmobiling into an expensive, complicated, exclusive hobby instead of a simple winter activity. Ask yourself, when's the last time you saw a kid on a beater sled just goofing around? Like seriously, don't you feel like everything has gotten so serious? Performance-focused. You needed the right gear, the right sled, the right modifications. Social media made it worse. Kids see Instagram videos of guys on $17,000 turbocharged mountain sleds doing backflips in British Columbia powder. That's not accessible. That's not relatable. That's intimidating. We forgot that most of us started by riding loops around the back 40 at 20 miles per hour, dragging our buddies on a toboggan, crashing into snowbanks and laughing about it. The barrier to entry became competence instead of curiosity. All right, this next thing I'm going to talk about is brutal because we thought we were doing the right thing. Between 1990 and 2020, organized trail clubs invested billions developing and maintaining trail systems across the snowbelt states. Michigan alone has 6,500 miles of groomed trails. Wisconsin has 7,000 miles. Professional grooming equipment, bridges, signage, rest areas, all funded by registration fees, trail passes, and club volunteers. Sounds great, right? Except grooming budgets require consistent ridership to stay solvent. Annual trail pass in Wisconsin costs $50 for residents. Sounds reasonable, but clubs need to sell 15,000 passes just to cover grooming costs for 200 miles of trail. When ridership started dropping, clubs had to raise prices. Wisconsin's pass went from $30 in 2005 to $50 in 2015. That sort of created a death spiral. Higher prices drove away casual riders. Fewer riders meant less pass revenue. Less revenue meant worse trail conditions. Worse conditions drove away more riders. And those premium groomed trails discouraged the casual exploration that built the sport. In the 1970s, you rode wherever there was snow. Across fields, through woods, up logging roads. By 2010, trail clubs and landowners restricted off-trail riding. Liability concerns, environmental regulations, property rights. So you couldn't just wander anymore. You paid for access to designated trails or you stayed home. That fundamentally changed the experience. Next, electronic fuel injection. Reverse gear is standard. Heated seats and handlebars. Digital displays, turbos, intercoolers. All amazing technology, all completely unnecessary for a beginner. But manufacturers don't sell basic sleds anymore because profit margins on basic sleds don't support dealership networks. A dealer needs to make $2,500 profit per unit to stay in business. That's easy on a $15,000 sled with 35% markup. That's impossible on a $6,000 sled with 22% markup. So the industry collectively decided to abandon the entry-level market. Arctic Cat discontinued the Z120 Youth sled in 2016. Polaris kept the 120 Indy, but stopped improving it. Ski-Doo's MXZ120 hasn't had a meaningful update since 2009. They're not interested in recruiting new riders. They're more focused on selling premium machines to aging fans who have money. That's a business strategy for short-term profits and long-term extinction. Remember when I mentioned Canada's registration numbers went up? Let me tell you why. Canadian provinces never let dealership networks collapse. Quebec has provincial programs supporting rural dealers. Ontario offers tax incentives for shops selling entry-level equipment. They also kept vintage sled culture alive. There are 147 active vintage snowmobile clubs in Canada. weekly rides, parts swaps, mentorship programs where old-timers help young mechanics rebuild classic machines. That created a pipeline. Kids start on vintage sleds, learn mechanics, build appreciation for the sport, eventually buy new machines when they can afford them. We killed that pipeline in America. Let me show you exactly what it costs for a family to start snowmobiling in the new year 2026. 2 adult riders, 1 youth rider. 3 sleds, 2 used, 1 youth. $18,000. Trailer, $3,500. Gear for 3 people, $2,800. Registration and trail passes, $450. Insurance, $780 annually. Fuel and maintenance, $600 per season. Total first-year cost, $26,130. Annual recurring costs, $1,830. Now compare that to 1985. 3 sleds, $7,200. Trailer, $800. Gear, $600. Registration, $150. Insurance, $200. Fuel and maintenance, $300. First year, $9,250, equivalent to $26,700 in 2025 dollars. Annual recurring, $650, $1,875 in 2025 dollars. The first year cost stayed relatively stable with inflation, but the recurring annual costs dropped significantly in real terms. That's because sleds are more reliable now. Better engineering means less maintenance. However, reliability doesn't help new riders who can't afford to start in the first place. Sports don't die from lack of interest. They die from lack of access. And we built walls everywhere. Financial walls, geographic walls, cultural walls, regulatory walls. We forgot that snowmobiling grew in the 1960s because it was accessible. Any working guy could scrape together $600 for a used sled. Kids learned on hand-me-downs. Communities shared equipment. The sport succeeded because it was democratic. We killed that. We created a premium recreation activity for aging guys with disposable income. And now we're confused why our grandkids aren't interested. Now I want to hear from you. Did you try to get your kids or grandkids into snowmobiling? What stopped you? Was it money? Insurance? Just couldn't find a way to make it work? Drop your story below. Be honest. Because if we're going to save this sport, we need to admit what we did wrong. And maybe, just maybe, figure out how to fix it before it's too late. If you want more videos like this, hit that subscribe button and check out the next video here.